2020 for our regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting. Carrie, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Schneider?
Here.
John Murphy?
Present.
Tom Brown?
Here.
Chris Brown?
Here.
And Sickinger? Here.
All commissioner members are present. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 4th, 2020. Do I hear a motion with respect to the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes to approve as read.
Motion by John Brown. Do I hear a second?
I'll second. Jeannie, you got the floor.
Second by Jeannie Sickinger. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we call the roll, please?
Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Director Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown? John?
Yes.
Chairman Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Sickinger? Yes.
All right. All voting yes, the motion passes. Our next item on the agenda is an open discussion. This is the ongoing discussion with respect to the U.S. playing card development. It's important for everyone at home to note that what is happening is that the developer has approached the city and sort of engaging with the city and presenting updated versions of their plans, asking for feedback from the city so that we can create a dialogue to sort of go over what's becoming one of the more important projects that's occurring in the city. So with that, I ask if Nick Langenfelter and whoever would like to approach and discuss their updates with respect to the U.S. playing card development.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. Hi again, my name is Nick Langenfelter. I work with PLK Communities here in Cincinnati. I'm joined by Colleen Reynolds. She's with DSC Advisors. They help on our community engagement and government relations side as well, making sure that we keep the clean line of communication open with everyone in the community as well as all of you. So we're happy today to present to you our conceptual plan for the redevelopment of the former United States playing card facility. We understand this is not a formal approval, but given the overall scale of the project, as you said, Chairman Brown, our goal is to make sure we get your opinions and gauge where you're feeling the site plan is at today before we continue to proceed forward. We do not have final building materials, and honestly, we have quite a few potential tenants that have reached out to us asking to be there. But at this point, we're not even comfortable having those conversations until we know we're heading in the right direction. Based on your feedback, we are going to finalize the site plans, and then from there go to materials, infrastructure of the site, how the road planning, programming, everything will look. We actually will go over today how some of the roads, we see them potentially flowing in different scenarios. Again, we will come back and present a formal request for approval on a final site plan approval. We did try to look at doing this as a preliminary approval, but given the size and scale of the site, it did not make sense to go through all those steps if conceptually where we're at today, you're not happy with. So please know that our goal is and has always been to create a regional gathering place for the city of Norwood. We want people of Norwood to be proud of this property and of this location, and that's why we continue to engage the community and all of you. Many urban developments in this area don't have the land mass we have, and we know that, and we also understand it's very important. So we want everyone in the community to feel welcome in the development. This is not an inclusive development that is just out there away from the city of Norwood. We want this to be a walkable entertainment area for the entire neighborhood to be able to come to. I'll walk through the site plan and show you how we plan to help do some of that and engage everyone. I also don't want to lose the fact that we are here to honor some of the historical elements of the property. As you can see, the clock tower, and we'll get into the survey results of what we got from the community, was one of the most important things that came up for the community, and we've always intended to save that. The cutaway is almost complete. It should be done this week. And behind it, we actually have the steel reinforcements, so everything is ready to go. We believe at this point there are no additional issues with cutting away the clock tower and saving it to put it in the new development. So, as a brief update, just so you all know where the plan is today, remediation was completed on Saturday. We are now 100% complete with remediation of the site. There is no more asbestos, and we have no more additional work that we need to do on that front. We still do have environmental work to complete, though. We are now in our 6th round of testing, particularly on 2 different locations on the site. There was the TCE that was always known near the Gruen Watch Company building that was coming through the floors. That was one of the reasons that building could not be saved, because of the indoor air quality not meeting EPA standards. There was alternate solutions, but basically required us to rip down the whole building and rebuild it. So we still have that TCE to deal with. We've also got some mercury and lead and a few other stuff on the site that we will have to eventually clean up. We've done some delineation of the site, which basically means we've punched additional holes to figure out exactly which depth those are at and exactly how much we have to extract from those locations. That is all complete. The power plant is complete. The underground tunnels are complete. Everything is done. So right now we're tracking to be done with demolition around the end of August. Same time frame we've always talked about. We believe that we have actually made up time on the site during the COVID stuff, which we actually had expected to be delayed much more than we were. What you will see is the majority of the demolition will be complete in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But now then we have to go in and get the underground tunnels out. We have 8 feet of foundations under every building that have to be dug out. So while it will look complete, we do have quite a few months worth of work on the underground portion of the site that needs to take place afterwards. So I also want everybody to understand our goal is to make this site balanced. It is not just about luxury units. It is not about being exclusive. We want everyone to feel welcome here. Yes, we plan to have some higher-end units, but we also want 3-story working-class units. We also want some age-restricted units that are specific to those buildings. We have seen a significant trend in our properties for people that are empty nesters that want to downsize, but they have no place to go. I've received a lot of emails from people in Norwood saying, I want to sell my house, but I want to remain in Norwood. There's no place for me to go. Do I go to Oakley? Do I go somewhere else? So we are looking at a component of this project, which I will point out, that will be specifically designated towards the empty nester group. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into what we've been doing on the community involvement front. And I'm sure many of you have seen this stuff, but I do want you to kind of have an idea of what we're seeing on a daily basis and what we're doing to engage the community. So we did set up the Facebook page roughly 6 to 7 weeks ago at this point. In the past 30 days alone, we've had over 39,000 unique people show up to our site. That's a pretty staggering number. So many people in Norwood shows you how engaged your community is. We basically started with daily posts in the past month. We went to every other day. On a typical day, we're getting over 2,700 clicks on our website, specifically to come see the information that we're putting up. It's everything from saving the shields at the property to cutting away the towers. We're seeing significant interest from the city of Norwood, and we can track where those are coming from. We've now released 2 videos. The first for public engagement, and the second was yesterday, was on how the new site plan is going to lay out. The first video was viewed over 10,000 times in about a 2-week span, and it's been reached by over 16,000 people. So what reach means is somebody actually takes that video and shares it with their friends.
Yeah, and then they view it, and then you have a complete...
That's where reach is counted. But physical views are views from our site.
Right.
So yesterday's video, in 24 hours, had over 8,000 views, mostly from the city of Norwood. So again, something very good to know, that when we're bringing you data and we're going to go through some of the survey results, these are your constituents, these are your residents, and this is what the feedback they're giving us. And we're going to show you how we're incorporating their feedback to make the plan work. So we've shared the plans with multiple publications, again, trying to make sure the public can get out. For the months, we've been discouraged not to go knock on doors. We know we can't have community meetings, so how else do we do this? And the videos have been a strategy that seems to be working very well.
Yep.
We did the neighborhood engagement survey. This was overwhelming in the response. Colleen can tell you from experience of other projects, a good project reaches 150 surveys back in. We got 298 in 48 hours. We're just over 350, and we eventually shut that down because we were down to like 2 to 3 a day, so the survey wasn't generating new results. And what I can tell you is I've read every single survey. If somebody gave me their information, we have responded, and we made sure that everybody's been reached out to. We want people to know that their feedback is valued. So the survey we took offline though because we got down to 2 a day.
Yeah,
so
we know we talked a little bit about this last time we were in front of you guys about our intent here, but it's just a true testament to the organized community that you represent and how they've been responsive and engaged with us and how much they deeply care about what's going to go here. And to us, along the way, our core mission is to build a development alongside the community and alongside your leadership, not show you something that we think is great and get your reactions. We want to walk every step of the way. So we're really grateful. We wouldn't be as far as we are today without this interest. So.
And even if somebody's not happy, we've had a lot of people that have questioned certain things. We make sure that we still engage them.
Yeah.
Listen, we do value their feedback because we want to know why you don't like it. And is there something that we could have done better? We want this to be the best site plan. That's why we're saying we want your feedback too. So I want to kind of walk through what the survey results told us. So this was very fascinating. Let me start with how we did the survey. There were 12 questions on the survey. I believe it was 4 were actually multiple choice and the rest were fill in the blank. This was on purpose. This also made for a much more arduous process to understand them all. But the reason why was if somebody read a question differently, for instance, they mentioned the clock tower in their survey, and they might have mentioned it in question 4 versus question 2. We didn't want to discount what they were saying. So, to that point, 48% of all people mentioned the clock tower somewhere in their answers. Very few people mentioned ever working there. Most people mentioned, I've never seen past the clock tower. The clock tower, people remembered, was being uptime pre-cell phone. I saw it from the swimming pool. I always knew when to go home for dinner. It's the story we hear from everybody. But that's why we understand, and that's why we're trying to make the clock tower, that sentinel, that important feature within the development. When you come in and you'll see that. Over 40% of all people commented they wanted some form of non-chain retail. I will tell you, our goal is to not have any chain retail in here, if at all possible. So we aren't here to put a Starbucks in. We're trying to make sure we create businesses in Norwood that are for Norwood and for your residents.
We will share with you one fun tidbit. Many of your residents are very passionate about Cracker Barrel, and specifically wanted to know if that was something that we were considering. So when we get to the designs, we'll show you how our take on that without actually bringing in a Cracker Barrel. But just so you're clear,
the number 1 restaurant written in our survey is Cracker Barrel. But there will not be a Cracker Barrel here. But as Colleen said, we will show you in the plans how we're trying to give a nod to that. So. 50% of all people that wrote in mentioned some form of brewery or Oakley as where they would go for a relaxing evening. Mm-hmm. Something that we actually took to heart is the very next one. Actually, probably more important than the first one. More people mentioned hanging out in their backyard or hanging out locally with their friends than mentioned Rookwood or Hyde Park combined. And we believe we know why that is. It's basically a parking lot. Nothing wrong with it, but it's the chain retail that we don't want. It's not the sense of place we want.
Place or community or gathering space. It was very crystal clear, really, in the written responses.
The number 1 park location that came up was actually Summit Park in Blue Ash. So we tried to make sure we incorporated that walkable green feature. That's why we rerouted the roads. That's why we tried to make it more walkable and intertwined as a community. So. The top things people want in the community space: performance stage, a water feature, a family park, and a dog park. All 4 of which we are going to have in the first phase of this project. So we, again, took the feedback to heart and made sure this plan meets that. Another very important thing, we'd asked about murals, and I know this is a hot topic, but just know that 83% of all people mentioned that they wanted some type of murals in this development. We had less than 20 surveys out of 350 that said, I do not want public art at all.
It's a really staggering number.
It's a staggering number. It's just
we were surprised to be quite honest.
And the thing is, we do have the surveys, we can print them out. We don't want to publish everybody's surveys because there are email addresses and phone numbers on some of them, but it was a very fascinating thing. The public art thing has really gotten, I probably get more emails and phone calls on that than anything else, whether it's artworks or whatever. So again, we'll walk through this. We're just showing you the data of what the survey results were. Another important thing to know for Norwood, this is fantastic for the long-term growth of the community. 65% of all people who responded, which is usually not the demographic we get to respond on Facebook. We're 25 to 44. So a lot of those people are telling us, again, emails, whatever, I was priced out of Oakley. I came here because I couldn't come somewhere else. I wanted a place for my family to be. So we definitely kind of hit a nerve with that one, which is fantastic. So the primary concerns were, will you have sufficient parking and traffic? We left a section of what the primary concerns were. We're showing you what came up the most. The community has some fantastic naming suggestions. We don't know what the name is yet. We're not going to release anything today, but I do want you to know that there were some really good ones that are at the top of our list. So that would be great if we can get there. And the last but most importantly, was, will U.S. Playing Card have any part of this development? What I can tell you, and I'm very pleased to tell you, is U.S. Playing Card will have a piece in this development. We don't know what it is yet. We are working with them directly. We've worked with their CEO on multiple occasions recently. He grew up in Norwood. He's from Norwood. And whether it will either be some type of game cafe or some type of museum or something else, we do not know yet again. But they have verbally committed and told us we can publicly say they will be a part of the development.
You all are the first to hear that. We're super excited about it. It was always kind of our hope, but we never could say for sure if that was going to be a reality. So
Yeah, even if it's just a museum, we've talked about will they have artifacts planted throughout or whatever it's going to be, or rotating things. We are working with them to have a solution. We are meeting with them again tomorrow, and we're continuing to move those conversations forward. So with that, yeah, we got it. With that, we actually do it. It's called a word cloud. So these are the most commonly occurring words in all of the surveys. So our architects aggregate all this data, and then we put that up there. So I thought just some cool words like love, like how much people love their community came up a lot. The clock tower, where's the park? Park was on so many surveys. So I think it really kind of speaks to the community that Norwood is and why we want to be here. What some of those things are that came up. So that's just more of a fun graphic, but also another thing to show you what people are saying. So let's go to the first rendering. So keeping all that feedback in mind, what are we doing to bring the public together and create those senses of place? So most importantly, we have the clock tower. And as you can see, we've actually got the clock tower in the first bay of windows. As we got into this, originally we were only going to keep the clock tower, but we realized architecturally and aesthetically, we weren't giving people a sense of mass. So the idea is that clock tower, and I'll show you on the back side, we want to make a public space. We don't know how to do that yet, but we're working on something like a Summit Park, where they have an elevator to go all the way to the top. Most likely that it's either going to go on the left side from this rendering or the rear. You'll actually see it in the rear renderings right now, but we're debating on how we get there. But the idea is the entrance to the clock tower truly is the public's entrance, and the public's entrance to the property. On the back side of this is your entrance to the park. So, but again, we want people to understand what was really fascinating about the clock tower is so many people brought it up, but nobody ever mentioned being in it. Nobody's ever seen the view. So how do we get the public to finally get the view of what they've always just seen from the outside? So, what you'll also notice in some of these, and we'll go into part view, you can see that we've added just murals internally on the public art portion. How do we help incorporate that into the site? Another thing I wanted to talk about was when we originally did an internal sketch, we actually said Park Avenue going down the middle. For a multitude of reasons, from pedestrian safety to walkability to everything else, it actually made sense to constrain that traffic. When I get to the traffic running, I'll show you how the traffic we anticipate flowing around the property. But the idea is for events, for Christmas tree lightings, for things like that, this actual driveway gets shut down, and that is truly a walkable entrance from the community. I'll also show you inside that building when we get to the actual floor plans. We have a community bicycle room that people can park their bikes at. We've got a couple other things. We've got a ride share just inside there, so people are not parking physically on the site. And we're just, again, trying to make sure we can truly engage the community and that they feel welcome walking into the site. So this is a view kind of looking from the highway, which you can see down here. Whoops. My thing is not killing right there. Right there. Thank you. Those are actually for sale townhomes. This is one of the few locations on the site that we actually bid through for sale homes on the project. These for sale homes will be included in phase 1. So, what is in phase 1? Right now we're looking at about 220 residential units. 20 or so townhomes that are for sale. Again, we're limited on where the EPA is letting us put that in. You can see the water features in the middle that were mentioned right there. And as Colleen said, kind of as a nod to the Crackerville theme, we actually have rocking chairs that will be out on those walking boulevards. You'll be able to walk out of that market hall onto that water feature. At the same time, to the north of the market hall, let's see if I get that there, right there, you can see what's more of a food truck parking, seating as well. To the right of that, right over there, we actually have the family park. So what we did in study in other parks was look at this and say, okay, if my family's eating outside the market hall, if we're hanging out somewhere else, where do my kids go and play? A nod to what Summit Park is doing so successfully. So we made sure that the family park was just to the right of where all the public outdoor seating was, so that you can have a seat outside while your kids play at the park. You cannot see it from this angle, but we'll see it from the other. To the right of that is actually where our dog park is. So the dog park has independent parking that the community can come in and come out without physically having to drive through the middle of the site, at the same time have parking with your dogs. In the main part of the park, a little more difficult to see here, you can actually see that there is a stage. Our goal is to program this and truly have events that the neighborhood can walk into, whether it's the symphony or somebody else holding an event outside. We want that stage to be there. and we'll get down to the park view in a minute. I'll kind of show you where we've got some of the other features. All the buildings that are colored in here are part of phase one, including the one up there on Beach Street. We want to make sure this development always looks complete. If you're coming down Beach Street, you're not seeing a parking lot. That's the number one thing Brookwood has, is do you see the parking? We don't want that. We also, again, want to make sure when you're pulling in, it always looks complete and you're never just seeing a construction site.
Yeah, this is something that we have discussed with many of your colleagues, particularly your friends on City Council, who kind of showed some of these site plans too to gather their feedback. And it's been one of our number one points to drive home is that it always feels full, always feels complete. So we know it's going to take a long time for us to get full development finished, but it really matters to us, and it'll matter to folks who come and use it, that it feels full and exciting and walkable and all the things we want it to be green, no matter what stage of the process that we're in. So that's definitely something that we had to take into consideration with the traffic patterns and so on and so forth. But I think that we've discussed that at length with your colleagues on council, who are appreciative that we're trying to phase this out in the most appropriate way where it feels complete.
And all public stuff will be completed in the first phase. I think that's the most important thing to understand. So you do have the farmer's market down below to the right of the market. And then what I want to kind of point out here, which is a little more difficult to see in this rendering, is you can actually see the elevator going up to the clock tower. So we want to be able to go up to the clock tower and the observation deck in there. I will make these available for everybody here. You can blow them up. You can see them in larger scale.
Amen.
We just didn't want to put anything online until we did the video first. We wanted you guys to kind of see these renderings first before we physically release them. So this is kind of what the park looks like. Again, standing in the mall park, you've got this fire pit, kind of bringing people back to, we really enjoyed hanging out in our backyard. We want a place for my family to gather. So the fire pit in the winter, if it's not a fire pit, can become where the Christmas tree goes. You're basically standing right now in roughly where the back area of the brewery space is located. We have been talking to multiple brewery operators, as we indicated last month. We are not comfortable proceeding too far until we know that the plans are in a position and we can say, roughly this is what you're going to get. But again, we want everybody to feel that. We did do the public art on the stairwells. The stairwells are part of that original building. And what you're able to see down here is you actually can see ground floor retail. So when I get to the site plan, I'll show you where we're building retail into the building so you can walk across the park. Another thing that we have done is we're actually raising the road in this location. So you're not actually going to have a curb to go to the road. It's actually going to be more of a single grade. So it makes it more pedestrian oriented. It's not transient oriented, sorry. And then as far as the screen goes on the building, that's just a basic screening we can do pretty easy. It's not a large television screen per se, but if there is larger events, whether it's the Reds or a football game or something important, we can do that on the weekends and have families out in the park, enjoying the park, watching a game, and you don't have to be at your house. So the site plan, again, and I apologize, it's a little small for you guys to see, but what we wanted to make sure of is you have your primary access road here that you can see all the way to the back. You also have a second road down below. Oops. Just waiting this to go. Sorry, it's not liking how far we are away. The road to the south of the primary road is also what's known as an A street. We wanted this to be a very boulevard feel. When you pull into the property under one of those two roads, you're always looking at the front of a building. You're not looking at a parking lot. Yes, we have parking on here, but we tried to make sure the parking was buried from the pedestrians. So the parking down by Multicolor is partially related to the environmental issues and partially related to noise from the factory. Would love to put more buildings closer to the factory. I think they're going to be very hard to fill those buildings having that noise immediately next door to you. We'll also point out that the road to the south Kenilworth we've widened to about 35 feet. So right now is barely wide enough for 2 cars to fit through, so we understand that this road does need to be widened, and we fully intend to do that. Phase 1, again, is just that central core around the park. Your market, yes, sir?
You said you're going to widen Kenilworth?
So we're going to widen it on our site. We have to give up part of our site to do it.
Okay. I thought you were talking
Physically, no.
what's there now, part of Kenilworth.
No, sir. It's just within the site itself. So we need to give away some more land to widen that down there, because what you'll notice in the traffic patterns is where will traffic flow if we don't want them to drive through the middle. So we need to figure out how to manage that in the process.
I guess parking too, we can get into this, I'm sure you guys will have questions, but what you'll notice with this site plan is at no point when you are walking, driving, biking through this development can you see a flat public parking lot. And so that's really important to us, really, really important to the vision of the site. So to go along with what I said earlier about feeling complete and full at all times, we really notice how we intentionally built the traffic patterns and placed the buildings and the frontage and all of the above, so that way those flat parking lots are really, you'll never see them ever unless you're physically parking there. So that really matters to us, and it plays along with all the things we've discussed. But
the only place you can see is really the north. If you kind of look at that northern road, and the reason why is if we truly had to park towards the dog park in the market hall and all that other stuff, we needed to make sure there was some parking there. But ultimately, that's the last phase for that anyway. If we ever needed expansion parking, we would expand where those upper two small residential buildings are by the dog park. We would not actually.
Far left.
Yeah, those are the last buildings to go on this site.
Lane, is there any underground parking place?
No.
No.
We did not do any underground parking. I'll kind of pull this back and say peel back the onion and show you what it looks like. So in that 4-story factory, let me go back real quick. You can see that we actually have a 3-story building plan to go on top of it. The reason why is because we're actually using the first 3 floors to be a parking garage.
Okay.
So we have the parking garage physically built in the building, and then we're going to build residential on top.
Yeah, we're trying to really hide it the best we can, and even if it has to be surface or indoor, it doesn't feel like a parking garage is on the side either. Yeah.
So again, we want to kind of see that building on top, and like I say, peel back the onion. So what's the next level look like? The only difference you see here between the previous one and this one is we physically show you what the garage looks like underneath. Yeah. Because with that garage and the parking, you can start to get an understanding there's over 300 cars that can park in that garage. So, but again, we're burying them within the site that you're not physically seeing it. I will point out as well that on the first floor, you can kind of see we have the retail built into the garage. And to the right of the retail, we're actually showing some residential.
Where the red is.
Where the red is. So we get the retail's the red, the yellow is the residential. So again, we're trying to make sure we're making this a cohesive development, that the parking is all buried and hidden, and you don't feel like you're in a big parking lot. So again, that's the only space we have. Mr. Braun, I know last time you asked, because I think I used the term pad incorrectly. It was just more of a, where are we going to program that? We've spent a lot of time talking about the office and potential hotel. So on this site, you see what says proposed office and proposed hotel.
Yeah. Blue is
the office, purple is the hotel. Now, we understand that hotels are not exactly doing great right now. We also know that we don't know what the office market is going to look like in 12 to 18 months. But what we do know is we're going to dedicate this space specifically for it. You can see that we've had a green space between the two, and we want the buildings to physically front the development so they always look like they're part of the development. Yes, we're putting parking on the highway where the site starts to fall off, but most of our users, we want them to activate the space. We want them to go in the market hall. We want them to, that'll actually help make the rents more, a better rent on the property as a whole to truly feel part of it. So between the market hall and that blue office building, you see a little gray space. That has not been programmed yet intentionally. And the reason why is we figure that the office users will want some type of amenity, whether it's a place they can go outside and take a phone call or something else. So we're really trying to think through what our users are going to want and be an area that they want to go to. Something came up to me today, and this is a question we get a lot. You know, what's traffic going to look like? So to give you an idea, this property is close to 4,000 linear feet on the outside. We front less than 300 linear feet of any type of residential. So when we're designing this, we're technically a bit of an island. You've got the railroad, the highway, and the industrial on the other side. So we tried to make sure when we're planning this site that where we are showing that residential, abutting residential down there, and then kind of feeding into the site to the north of it. The other thing I kind of tell people when they say, well, you know, accessibility is going to be a problem, my first question to them was, well, how do you get to Berkeley Square, Hyde Park Square? You're traveling 4 or 5 different ways to get there. So if you truly make the destination that this is, that it needs to be, it's going to be the center, and they're going to come from a bunch of different directions. But I just wanted to make sure we kind of highlighted that. Wow, you're not going to be able to see this at all. So I'll be glad to share this slide. I just want you guys to know we've thought through parking ratios. We understand when this thing is fully built out, we're going to need close to 1,500 parking spaces. That's just a fact. Like, you know, looking at it
based upon a market study.
It's based on ratios, typical ratios of parking. So an apartment you're going to want for an empty net or an empty nester type product, you're going to want 1.25 to 1. For more of a moderate apartment, you're going to want closer to 140. We're using typical ratios of what we'd expect.
And hopefully they explain that right now the city really doesn't have minimum parking requirements. So you tell us how much parking you think you'll need. Don't feel that you have to somehow meet our requirement.
Thank you. Yeah, I think parking ratios are always tricky, particularly in planned developments when you're kind of guessing how many folks are going to use both sites. What if you live here but you also work in that office building, right? How do you really think about how you minimize parking, but do it effectively. And so ratios kind of help us do that, and they help us kind of think about what would be the worst case scenario, best case scenario, how do you make it more walkable, incentivize public transit, all the above. But I think we're getting closer every week that we talk about this and really nailing these down. These are really great. They really track with other plan developments in your surrounding communities, but also with just what the market's telling us. But thank you. That's helpful to know that it's a little bit different here in Norwood. We're trying to be as strategic as possible because the last thing we want to do is overpark this thing, right?
And by the way, we're counting, parallel spaces in those numbers too. We're trying to make sure we're not over parking. And again, we don't want the parking lot. A lot of people's concern is, I don't want them parking on my street. So how do we get to that point? Listen, if I can get by with less as we build this phase out, we're absolutely going to do it.
Right.
It's just making sure from this, we have to start with what does it look like today? Yes, we have a shared ride share. Yes, we have all that stuff. We would love to reduce it.
I think that too, just the technology with the Uber and Lyft, and as you described, you are creating a destination that on days like this past weekend, more people would be apt to walk to it as compared to drive. So you have greater freedom and your parking. We're not going to restrain or hamper you and say we need 5,000 spaces because that's what our code says.
Yeah.
That's not a factor here.
Yeah, we just wanted you to see that we're being really intentional with all the uses. But I think we could all guess a number, right, and say what do we think generally would we need. But we're really trying to nail it down based on use, ratio, national trends, public transit in mind, yada.
How will you regulate parking for the retail?
So as far as the retail parking goes, the garage is meant to be some type of public garage, or maybe the first couple hours is free like you might see in any other area. And then so if you come in and have dinner or something, it's going to be free to park there. Or, we're not here trying to charge everybody to come to the development. At the same time, if somebody lives there, yes, we're going to make them have a key card. We're going to make them have something where we physically charge them to rent month to month.
Yeah.
I assume that main garage, not the office garage, is some type of public garage that we're going to have to work through. But we don't have that final stuff yet. And, we've actually looked at the parking garage. If we need less over time, can we convert the one floor back to, say, office or something else? But for today, we have to assume we're at today's standards.
I think that you made a very key point. The way that you've designed the garage, it is a situation where as you need less parking, you can convert it into more usable space. And that trend has started in other locations.
Yeah.
So that main building may not necessarily be a garage in 10 to 20 years. Somebody may come in and convert it back into leasable office or residential space.
Yeah, you're seeing that a lot in downtown Cincinnati right now. Folks are taking those and converting them.
And we put the ramp on the outside specifically for that reason. That's what I was trying to highlight there. So it's more of like a speed ramp.
So you've been strategic in terms of how you've incorporated that building into your overall site for what you need, but more importantly, giving some flexibility that in the future we can sort of reactivate that space into more. It won't be a parking lot.
No, we have a wedding banquet space right now that wants to be there, but right now I have to count on that as my initial parking.
Right.
So in some scenario we'd love to have it, but how do we figure out how to plan all that into there and get the site right? And ultimately, to hide the parking, that's about the best place we can hide it. So I'm going to make sure I go through the rest of those. So one other thing I wanted to point out for you. So one thing that we've looked at that we felt was very important is how do we physically hold events. What you can see is we've designed these purple to be more of a bollard at the front and a bollard towards the rear. So when you actually have an event, we can close down that main park, whatever that is.
So what you're really looking at in the purple is if you're, let's use Christmas tree lighting. That's easy to think about. And folks want to come in and out. That's the festival traffic flow and how we're going to shut things down. So it also kind of shows you how folks may come in and around the site, but how much space then we're going to have to fit that many people. Maybe not during a time of social distancing, but when we can really make it feel like that complete full development with shutting down the roads in a very simple way.
Yeah, and we want you guys to know we are thinking about traffic patterns. We are thinking about that. We're thinking about where we stage during construction and don't put any stress on the streets. We're kind of going through all of those steps. I just thought this was an important one for people to understand because we are thinking about when we say festivals or music or something else out there as an event type of space.
Well, it came out in the surveys, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what we heard. A real true community gathering space isn't just to have a beer on a Saturday, but to be able to really, create memories there, and not just watch a Reds game either, but what can we really do to have this community
Is there going to be any ingress or egress from Duck Creek or down in the area of Public Works?
No, it's too narrow underneath that bridge.
Shut off the tunnel?
Really like.
Yeah, it's too narrow underneath the bridge right now. I'd love to have some way to do that. I don't know how to
Can
do
you
that
try
right
to
now.
try to get?
I've taken my car through. It's pretty rough. So, not to say we can't do it at some point, but it'd have to be widened, or it would not work for true infrastructure to come through there. I know.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it would be great. We'd also tell you that too, that sliver just between Duck Creek and the back of that, what we call the parking for the office, proposed office up there, that's still owned by the city of Cincinnati as well. So we were working with them to try to get that piece. They didn't even realize they owned it, and we said either clean up your parcel or give it to us and we'll clean it up, but somebody has to clean it up. So
What piece of property?
there's a piece of property actually right there.
It's a city.
That's owned by the city of Cincinnati.
That should have been part of the Linwood Waterfields deal a long time ago.
Well, it's just, that'd be great. Right now, the title still shows the city of Cincinnati, so somebody needs to double check that.
Yeah, and I've got to go on at the city to see what they can find out because they don't even know what to charge.
There's probably so many parcels down there. There's probably might have been one they missed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we're going to use it for detention. It's a 40-foot of fall anyway. So what do we really do with it? But if we ever were to activate that northern side, that's where we're going to have to do it from. So
We'll keep you posted, but
yeah.
the city's working on it.
So with that, like I say, I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you listening to us. And just note that this is a significant investment for our company. We're talking $100 million. We do not raise outside capital. This is our internal money. So we want this to be successful for the neighborhood. We want it to be successful for Norwood. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're here to work with you. We're here to take your feedback. And we want to make sure you like what we're doing before we just keep continuing to move forward down our path and all of a sudden we've got a plan that nobody can work on together. So again, I thank you for your time and I'd love to just take any questions that you have.
Could you return back to the site plan while people talk about?
Absolutely.
That one, let's go to that one.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So I'll open it up to the board if anybody would like to give their thoughts on the initial site plan. Mayor Schneider.
Well, you hit all the hot button issues, and you did the survey and all that, except for one that I think is thriving in the city, which I'm really surprised it didn't show up, was bike racks and bike paths going through and bike lanes through the whole route. I'm surprised that wasn't one of your words because it seems like everybody in the city, especially that demographic of 25 to 44 that you said was that they didn't mention any of that.
Yeah, and I reached out to a couple people like how do we get a bike lane extension? And I'm actually go forward one for you and show you. It's kind of hard to see on here, but in this top right corner, there's a little shaded in the parking garage. We do actually have a bicycles drop. So if you ride your bicycles to the site, you can drop it off.
We've been talking with our architects about neighboring sites and connectivity, which I think is important. So we had them look at Watson Way, some bike infrastructure that's going to be coming to Oakley in their future, the Old Kenner site. And really, we've brought that to their attention, which I think they're trying to see where that might fit. Ultimately, we have discussed it as an internal team, but it really didn't really come up from the surveys. But that does not mean we're not going to pursue Red Bike, though my experience with Red Bike gets a little challenging. It's about $50,000 at least per station, and not that that's not worth the investment, but it doesn't work unless there's a close connection, right? The whole point is you're able to ride one Red Bike from one station, drop it at the next so it can charge, especially if it's an e-bike or however the station is managed. So that gets a little tricky with e-bike, but let's say Oakley were to get a new station or some other point in Norwood, maybe where we are right now, were to get an e-bike station or a Red Bike station, the connectivity works a lot better. So it's not as simple as just putting it in there, but we do know that that is something top of mind, and we've discussed with our team to say, like, how do we get those uses in here and incorporate them? So we are talking about it, but it just gets a little tricky, but not to say we won't pursue it. So we are working about it.
Yeah, we said there's we were actually looking, does Norwood have a trail system, or is there a way we can tie into a spur or some big part of that? Because we do want to be a part of it. We just don't. It hasn't really, yeah.
The other question I would bring up is on the buildings, the new buildings that you're putting in, are they LEED certified? Are you looking at certification on any of those buildings? I recognize that you really don't have much of a plan for the office buildings, but the other buildings, are you looking?
We do a lot of LEED certified. I will tell you that we're working. I've been working with Ohio Division of Clean Air Quality, so yes, there'll be something there. I will also note that probably the number one question we get right now is about air quality within the units, and LEED is part of that. How do you make this all work? How do we make this a green space? So yes, I don't know if we'll physically LEED certify them, because sometimes you just get the certification to get the certificate, but we're building to that standard. It's a significant cost. So if it's necessary for the city to make them physically LEED certified, we can do that, but we will meet all of the standards, because we typically do. I will tell you, like when we build a condo, they all at least meet silver. It's pretty hard not to. So especially if you're building with today's, insulation standards and everything else. So we're not opposed to it. The question is that just a certificate we need? And if we do, we'll do it.
But if not, then
we do. We have to do, like, Ohio's new building code requires blower door tests on every door now in new apartments. That was recent in the last 6 months. Something that LEED has been doing for a long time. So we're not opposed to it. But again, we would be building at that standard. I would love a LEED Platinum office building. I think it's amazing. So how do we do that? And again, we're not opposed to it.
I have a question.
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is the size of the townhomes? How many bedrooms, apartments? Just give me an idea.
So your question was, what is the size of a townhome? Typical townhome we are looking at that we build in the city is about 1,800 square feet. Would have a 2-car internal garage and be roughly 3 stories. Most of them are 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. I would imagine we're using a similar footprint with a different exterior, very similar to what we already built today.
And are there going to be apartments also, or only townhomes?
So the only townhome portion that you see is right here.
bright orange.
So just to give you an idea when it comes to actual clean site for what we can sell from an EPA standpoint, the true clean ground is on the office, the townhomes, and this piece down here. It really limits us to what we can sell. Anything under the original factory footprint, they're going to be much more stringent on. So we can build an apartment because we can raise it up or do vapor barrier or something else. But you're probably not going to buy a home that has a vapor barrier. And that's the issue. So I would love to put more townhomes in here, but the reason we kind of centralize them there is you have the market right there, you've got the common water feature, and you tie it all together. You go much further past there, you're going to have a lot more of the highway noise, and you go to the south, you've got the factory. So we've looked at putting more into, listen, we'd love to sell out more units. It's not that, it's just that from a logistics standpoint, we wanted to make sure we had something for sale, and that made the most sense.
Mr. Murphy, do you have any comments?
Just the underground parking was my only question. The mayor talked about the other ones.
Secretary, do you have any other questions, comments?
I do not think so.
Sorry, it's not like it was everyone was trying to talk at first.
Well, I guess overall and sort of in summary, I know the last time we had a very frank discussion about expectations and everything, and I challenged you guys to create a place, and you have done that. You've actually created a place.
Thank you.
I challenged you all to have the buildings relate to one another so that it felt more of a cohesive unit. As Mayor Schneider said, the green was an example that he used, and you have done that. So as far as I'm concerned, you kind of rose to the challenge, if you will, that I laid down at our last meeting. And that's very reassuring because now we know that, at least I know, going forward as we talk about the architectural features and some of the more nitty-gritty details, there's going to be that dialogue we'll have. And as I said before, the whole goal of this is to make sure that this is the best project that we can have for the city, for you, for the neighbors, so that this is a win-win-win-win-win all the way down, checking all the boxes, and we're off to a very good start. So hopefully people who are at least watching online have gone to your Facebook page, have viewed the site plan. I'm hoping that if people have any comments or concerns or support for the site plan, that they're reaching out to their council members. It's one thing to hit that like button. It's another more important thing to send that email or to send that note to the council member saying, this is why I think this is a good site plan for the city. These are some of my reservations. I know traffic is always on our mind just because that's what we've been beat into for the past 60 plus years, but honestly, what you have done is extended the city of Norwood all the way to 71. You've reclaimed this particular site as part of the city. You have created a destination. Traffic is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that everybody wants to come there. From a safety standpoint, the slower cars go because there's more traffic, the more safe it is for pedestrian and bicyclists. I like your complete street idea. That's just a fancy term for what you described, where there's no curves. It's more of a pedestrians, bicyclists, cars are all interacting, and they've actually, studies have shown that that is a more safer type of street network than having segregated pedestrian from cars, because the car people know when they're going into that street that a person might walk out in front, and they're less likely to go barreling through there at high rates of speed. I like the idea of the parking garage in that building, as we talked about before. As people may not need that parking spaces, you can reintegrate it, reactivate that space. That's very encouraging. I have two sort of further encouragements. One is looking at green roofs as a potential way to sort of not only cut down on the utility expenses, because there's studies that have shown that green roofs cut down on the amount of air conditioning needed, surface water runoff, etc. But it will also create another attribute that you can sell to the community of, hey, we have these green roofs, come look at our green roofs, as another selling point for the project, another notoriety for the project. The other, not necessarily a challenge, but a thing to consider, is integrating Doral Field into your project, maybe working with the city and coming up with a plan of how to make Doral Field one of the best part of that neighborhood, because a well-done Doral Field is going to benefit your project, it's going to benefit the neighborhood, it's going to fit the city, because maybe if I live in that residential unit down there at the far corner, I'm more likely to be wanting to go doing my outdoor activity at Doral Field. And if Doral Field had more amenities, and it's a great park now, but it could be certainly can be improved. And this is a great opportunity to sort of look at the entire neighborhood for improvement with Doral Field and the tree esplanade there on Park, sort of reaching out. Yeah. And honestly, if it costs money for the plaque to be green certified, speaking for me personally, I'd rather see that money directed into some of the amenities off-site, Doral Field and the esplanade. Same with the red bikes. If it costs $50,000 for a red bike station, it might be more appropriate to use that money towards improving Doral Field with additional trees, drainage of the softball fields, what have you, so that people really, you're basically expanding your scope of your project now. It's becoming more integrated into the neighborhood, more of a destination space. The bigger that this area can become, the better off that it's going to be for the project, the better off for the city. So that's my only comments. I do look forward to working with you going forward. I know we talked about the architecture. Well, from what I've seen of the renderings, you're on the right path, I think, in terms of how we discussed, at least in my mind. So thank you very much for sharing.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't say we'd like to see some information on traffic impact to the community around there. I know that all of the trucks run up and down Kenilworth Avenue. We've had complaints, well, not complaints, but people with concerns about all the trucks that have came off of the property, removing all the buildings, but that's not going to stop for those neighbors. And, you know, if we look at Park Avenue and we've got one lane coming off of this property going down to Park Avenue where it intersects with Forest, that's one stoplight in an intersection that's already troublesome for people to figure out whose turn it is to go. So we really need to look at the impact to the other areas, to the whole community in that area. And there's really been no discussion. I know you talked briefly about different, but it's going to be interesting for those people that are living right there and passing through there. So.
Absolutely.
If there's an issue with the trucks, please let me know too, because we've been asking them to route off the lateral, come down Park, but to exit with full loads and cut over Robertson, so they're never just if there's
the problem
there is
with
an issue.
Robertson and Kenilworth.
Yeah, so
any trucks in those areas.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna. If you could The only way you could fix that is if the trucks were hovercrafts and didn't run on the road.
I told you, I mean, if there's a different route that we can have them drive, please let me know, though, and we will absolutely make them accommodate that, so.
I know there was, it's not on the property, but was there a traffic study done at Robertson and Beach?
There is one
I'm
at
just wondering
Robertson.
if the lights or anything would need to be upgraded on that potential traffic coming from Oakley.
We just eliminated those.
I have a
that
half.
light.
Yes.
I mean, just in the last 3 years, that light was removed,
Right.
and it's just a flasher. So
There's
I
talks
can't imagine it
with
wouldn't.
the city potentially of considering, well, definitely of traffic calming on Robertson, but what maybe roundabout or type of infrastructure could go somewhere on Robertson to try to slow traffic down. But I don't know if that would go into Norwood, but those conversations are so preliminary and have not resulted in anything yet. But we can look into the traffic study piece and see what we can pull. Because I do think that connectivity does matter. I mean, I take Robertson to get here every time I come to the site and to Norwood, and it is, people do book it. So, yeah, we can look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of one thing I'll say, that's your comment about using the money towards something else is exactly what I was getting at. We're going to meet the standard, so let's put the money somewhere else that the community benefits from. And we're still going to be building to that standards. That's not what we were trying to get at there. So be glad to help with anything. And again, if there's traffic or any issues, please let us know, because we want to make sure that we're a good neighbor and a good partner with the community. So.
I think we've all, I don't think we have any other comment. I would ask if you are watching online, or to please reach out to PLK. You still have your community engagement. If you have any questions or concerns, reach out to your council members, get involved, let them know what you would like to see. It is obvious that they are listening, and I think it's important that we should listen to them as well in terms of what they're telling us, so that we can, again, create a great project for the city, for PLK, and the neighborhood itself.
These will all be posted online tomorrow, too, for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to excuse absent members, but we do not have any, so we'll go on. Do I have any motions to adjourn, or does anyone have anything that they want to bring to the commission?
We still need to, and probably would come in under old business, and it's not on the agenda, but under old business, we still need to appoint a person to the Community Reinvestment Committee. And I'd said I would bring a few names. There are 3 people's names that I would bring to the commission, although I don't think they're ready for approval. But we have 4 names. There's Troy Davis, who lives on Crosley. There's Don Broughton, who lives on Clenny. Larry Fanning, who lives on Cameron. I don't know that they wouldn't have a conflict with a 3:30 meeting, a standard 3:30 meeting. And then there's a couple that are involved in a lot of different organizations, which is either Glenn or Myra Reefley would probably be good for a CRA oversight committee too. So those are 5 different names of people. So let me know, give me some feedback if you know them, or know that before I go and talk to them or even discuss it. They really need to understand what the CRA commitment is, and that still is not totally defined. So that's all I have.
Okay. Do you want any other names, or are you comfortable with those?
That's up to the commission.
Okay. Does any commissioner has any other names that they'd like to provide?
No, I'm done with some of those.
All right. Okay, anything else? I would want to point out that we have, besides playing card, we have 2 other good projects that seem to be jumping off with the Cowan Hall and the venture group there at Sherman and Montgomery. So we're very lucky that we have 3 projects, especially during these times, that are really making a difference, and hopefully we will continue that into the near future. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is concluded.